Hello. Today on DIY with Chris. Hi, we're going to be building an entryway bench. This bench is going to have shoe storage on it. We have the basic design right here. So we're going to have a 4-foot long bench, and then it's going to have 2 shelves. The bottom one's going to support taller shoes like boots, and then the top one is going to support other ones like smaller tennis shoes. So it's going to have 2 shelving system, and it's also going to be upholstered up top with a small pad. The reason why we're doing this is just to keep our wet and dirty boots off of the floor in our entryway, and we're also going to be applying a protective mat on both of the shelves to protect the wood. The basic supplies that we're going to be using for this is just going to be pine board, and that's going to cover all of our shelves and the top and bottom. And then a 1/4 inch backing. The dimensions on this is going to be a 4x4, and we'll cut it down to size. So we've already cut down all of our pieces. All of them are sanded, and we've started to fit them to make sure that everything's going to go together properly. So this is going to be the basic concept of how it looks. We're going to have the 2 shelves, but obviously I can't hold them up right now. And then these are the coverings, the protective coverings that we're going to use for each of the shelves to help kind of preserve the wood from that mud and water and help it last a little bit longer. So basic concept, protection. We're going to go ahead and start getting everything tacked together now. We're going to start off by using 1 1/4 inch nails to get the frame together, and then we'll go back and use 1 inch nails for our backing and get it into all of our shelves and everything. Alright, so we just finished cutting the trim. The trim is now placed on. We just used finishing nails for it, the 1 inch ones again, the same as we used on the backing. So the trim is on. We used a little bit of wood filler also to fill in the gaps, make it a nice, seamless, smooth transition from the main portion of our wood to the trim piece. We also have right here, they're not attached yet, but we do have the protective mats just so that you can kind of get a better idea of how it's going to look when it's finished. So we're all assembled, it's all framed and everything. Next thing we're going to do is just take these off, and we're going to start the staining process. After we stain it is when we're going to apply the mats with some spray-on adhesive, and that's what's going to protect it. So almost there, just have a few steps left to go, and our bench is almost finished. Okay, so next step, what we're gonna do, we just added this in just to make it a little bit nicer and to make it so that it was a little bit easier to retrieve your shoes out. So I'm gonna tilt this back here, and as you should be able to see that there are 3 brackets in the back, and what that's gonna do is allow, we're gonna install a ramp in there, and so that's gonna give me the height for the ramp. So we already cut, and this is the same board that we used for the backing. We just cut it to size that we could fit it in here. So that's going to sit right on top of those brackets that are in the back. I'm going to have to trim the front just a little bit to make sure that it sits even with that front lip, but now we're going to have a slight angle. And then of course we'll put the mats on. And then just as an example here, we can use my shoe, and there that is. It's kind of at a little bit of an angle. It just makes it a little bit nicer feature. We're moving on to our next step. We just finished putting a couple coats of stain on our bench, and so now we're looking at doing the upholstery for the padding for the seat. So we went over to the store and we just purchased these large foam pads. These are about 2 inches thick, 18 inches wide, and 3 feet long. We're cutting them down to size because our bench is 4 feet long and 1 foot wide. We're cutting them down to size, so these are the excess parts. We just drew the lines, measured it with the tape measure, and then drew the lines. And the best thing that we found that worked to cut these most effectively was these large pair of scissors. Other things was making a little bit sloppier cuts and whatnot. So we're going to go back and just straighten up some of the excess, make sure it's nice and straight and looks good. And then we're going to use some fabric that we picked up from the store, and that's what we're going to use to upholster them. DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself. DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself.